Hey guys, it's Lexi and welcome to my December pattern roundup. Thank you guys so much for all of your positive feedback on both of the pattern roundups that I recently published. One was a holiday sweater roundup and the other was a gift knit pattern roundup. I actually still have a lot more patterns left over and have a collection of things that catch my eye. So I figured since you guys enjoy them, I'll put together another roundup, and if it does well, then maybe this will be a series on my channel here monthly. So with that, let's jump in. Before we get started, I'm wearing my Cosima sweater by Gregoria Fibers. This was a test knit that I completed for her at the beginning of fall, and I love it. I knit it out of Sanda's Garn Mini Alpaca Held Double, and it was the colorway Blueberry. I'm not sure if it was a limited edition color, but I will link it down for you below to take a look at the pattern and the yarn. I also did a project vlog for this knit, so I'll link it up in the cards for you to take a look. But if you guys go back in my library to previous podcasts, I do talk about this for at least a few podcasts plus the project vlog. So if you're interested in learning more about it, there's a lot of resources on my channel for you. All right, so I do have my bundle up here and I will link it down below for you guys to access on Ravelry. So let's get started with the first sweater. So first we have the Max sweater by Johanna Garish. This was published in June of 2022. It's a DK weight sweater. The gauge is 19 stitches and 31 rows. The suggested needle sizes are US 7 and 4 or 4.5 and 3.5 millimeter. It does look like there are 7 sizes currently available. So right off the bat, I thought the sweater was very eye-catching. You guys know, if you watched my holiday sweater roundup, that I really have been on a plaid kick, and you'll see a couple of patterns that sort of echo that sentiment here. But I just thought it was really neat. It's a very boxy and cropped sweater with drop shoulders and a modern check pattern. So again, there's color work here. I think you could go in many directions with your color choices, and I just think it's really a festive sweater that can take you through winter into January and February and possibly March, depending on where you live. And so I had to add it to the list for you guys. Okay, next we have the PA cardigan, also by Johanna Garish. This was published in November of 2024. It's a sport weight pattern. The gauge is 19 stitches and 31 rows. The suggested needle sizes are US 7 and 4.5 millimeter. And there are 9 sizes available, so that's really nice. It's an oversized cardigan with a straight boxy fit, tapered sleeves, and a modern checked pattern. I think the nice thing about this is that it is a stockinette stitch pattern. It's worked top down in one piece. So for a cardigan, you know, there's a lot of different ways to construct it, but I do like the fact that this is all worked in one piece and seems to be very cohesive. So overall, the silhouette of this cardigan is very boxy, slouchy, meant to have a lot of positive ease, so very cozy and perfect for winter, December, as we move forward into the new year. I also took a look at all of the projects that are posted to the Ravelry page for this pattern, and there are some really fun colorways. People definitely went in different directions. As you can see, the designer has something that's very colorful and neon, almost spring-like to me. To me, this colorway kind of, you know, feels more springy, but there are a lot of really interesting suggestions and iterations of this pattern on the project page. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at it if you're interested in this pattern, but really neat, and I had to share it with you. All right, moving on, we do have one pretty Christmassy sweater in here, and it was something that I had highlighted in my bundle, but I didn't actually speak about it in my roundup. So we have Home for Christmas by Renard and Dormy. And this was published in September of 2025. It's a DK weight sweater. The gauge is 22 stitches in 30 rows. The suggested needle sizes are US 3 and 6 or 3.25 and 4 millimeter needles. And there are many sizes for this sweater. So the nice thing about this pattern is that the designer created child size versions and adult size versions. There are a whopping 21 sizes available in this pattern. So they have several children's sizes, several women's sizes, and men's sizes. So that's really fantastic. And I really got to give it to that designer because that's certainly not an easy feat. So if you're the type of family that does the Christmas cards we all match, this is a really good pattern for something like that. I had to show it to you guys. It's a color work sweater, worked top down seamlessly in the round. Most of the color work is up on the yoke, and it has that really sweet traditional kind of Christmas car with tree motif all across it. So in case you don't have your Christmas sweater picked out or your Christmas sweater pattern picked out, I think this is another really good one to add to the list, and certainly would be perfect if you have little kids in your life that you're looking to knit for. So funny, I seem to be doing this in pairs where I've got two from both of these designers. How weird. But the next sweater is Winter Pines by Renard and Dormy. And this was also published in September 2025. It is a DK weight sweater. The gauge is 22 stitches in 30 rows. The suggested needle sizes are US 3 and 6 or 3.25 and 4 millimeters. And again, there are a ton of sizes. So this sweater also has the same gradation as the previous one, where there are children's sizes, women's sizes, and men's sizes. So again, it's a seamlessly constructed top-down sweater knit in the round with a colorwork yoke, and there are some Fair Isle patterns picked up on the cuffs and the hem. So this is definitely still a Christmas type sweater, but I do think the motif kind of can carry you throughout the entire winter season. I like that it's moose. It looks to be moose colorwork design on the yoke, which I think is super sweet and kind of different. You know, we see a lot of reindeer, we saw Rudolph, we've seen trees, we've seen snowflakes, but I thought the moose was really cute and wonderful that there's so many sizes available. Again, really hats off to this designer because that's definitely a challenge. Okay, so now we're gonna move away from color work and get into more textured knits. I did notice that my last sweater pattern roundup seemed to skew into a lot of color work, which isn't a bad thing. It's kind of what I have been into lately, so that makes sense. But, you know, it's also nice to look at some textured knits. I do love those as well. And for people who aren't interested in color work, I think it's nice to have a few options. The sweater I'm looking at here is the Groove Sweater by Julie Hoover. This was published in February of 2023. It's a sport weight pattern, and the gauge is 24 stitches and 33 rows. There's a lot of needle sizes here. It's suggested US 7, 5, 4, and 2.5, or 4.5, 3.75, 3.5, and 3 millimeter needles. And it looks like there are currently 10 sizes available. Another note is that this pattern is actually available as part of a bundle on Purl Soho, so you can purchase the yarn and the pattern all together. And it features Purl Soho Season Alpaca yarn. Okay, so just giving you a little bit of information about the construction here. This pullover is worked flat in pieces from the bottom up and then sewn together. The neckband is worked circularly from picked up stitches, and the groove pattern may be worked either from written directions or from the chart. So oftentimes I show you guys top-down patterns, but you know, not everybody prefers that. I know for me, in the way that my brain works, that makes sense, but I know in speaking to, say, my mom, she looks for bottom-up patterns. That's just the way she prefers to work. It's what she's comfortable with. So yeah, it's kind of nice to, again, give you guys some variety, but also see a pattern that is worked in a different way. So the designer refers to the all over pattern as a groove pattern, but essentially it's a network of cables. So really pretty. I thought it was very interesting. It's not, you know, so traditional looking as like a fisherman knit or, you know, something that has more of a traditional classic motif. It is a little more modern looking to me, and there are some really nice projects linked to the project page. So I know it's shown in this really beautiful kind of oatmeal natural color, which of course is lovely and classic. But there are some really beautiful, rich jewel tones also done up for you to take a look at. So I think this is a great one, and it's definitely going to be in my queue, I think, at some point. Okay, and next we have another textured knit. This was photographed on a man, but I do believe it is a unisex pattern. It's the Old Fashioned by Thea Coleman. This sweater was originally published in April of 2021. It's a worsted weight pattern, and the gauge is 20 stitches and 28 rows. The suggested needle sizes are US 7 and 6, or 4.5 millimeter and 4 millimeter. And 1, 2, I believe there are 8 sizes currently available. It took me a minute to decipher it. Okay, so this also happens to be another pattern that's worked from the bottom up. So you're working it in the round all the way up to the armholes, and then you split and work the texture cables flat. So that's something to consider. She does give you written directions and a chart to work from for this texture pattern. But But it's just something to note because I know when I first started knitting garments, and I know I've mentioned this before, I worked a vest that was knit from the bottom up. So I didn't realize that when you're reading from a chart, you have to read right to left and also left to right when you're working on the wrong side of the work. So that's just something to be aware of. Again, depends on what you prefer. And it's not that it's so much harder, it's just a different way of doing it if you're used to knitting top down. I also just noticed that this pattern happens to be on the homepage of Ravelry. Honestly, I didn't know that, but I'm still going to include it in here, even if it's something you guys have seen, just because that's how different it can look knit up in different colorways or, you know, different types of yarn. So I do suggest you take a look at it. I think it's beautiful. It is truly a unisex pattern, and I'm glad it's being showcased. That's wonderful. All right, and the last sweater pattern I have for you guys is Gunnis Lake by Megan Babin. This was published in August of 2015. It's a worsted weight pattern, and the gauge is 19 stitches and 30 rows. The suggested needle sizes are US 7 and 5 or 4.5 millimeter and 3.75 millimeter. And the sizes available are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like there's currently 5 sizes available. So just a few details about the pattern. It is worked seamlessly from the top down with set-in sleeves, and they do use the contiguous method of sleeve construction. Another point to note here is that the neck opening is actually steeped. So if you're feeling adventurous, this might be a good pattern to try, or if you're familiar with steeking, maybe this would be something that you would consider. I know for me, if you guys follow along with what I've been doing lately, I'm working on a Dale of Norway sweater, which does need to be steeked, and that's my first steeking project ever. So I'll report back and let you know how it goes. But just so you are aware, there is steeking involved with this pattern. All right, and now we're gonna move on to a few accessories. So we're starting with the Journey scarf, and this is by Lotta H. Luthgren. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. It was originally published in November of 2025. It's a DK weight pattern, and the suggested needle size is US 8 or 5 millimeter. And this is a one size fits all, but you can certainly adjust it as it's a scarf. You can adjust the length to be what you desire. There's actually not a lot of information about what this stitch pattern is. It is a repeat. I'm not exactly sure if it's a cable or if it's some kind of knit purl stitch. But it is really pretty. I do like the texture, and I absolutely love the color that it's worked up in on the pattern page. I'm also a really big fan of fringe, so I just think this is so neat. And this could be a really beautiful gift knit as well. I mean, of course, you know, knitting it for yourself would be wonderful, but I do think this would be a very special and beautiful gift knit for someone this holiday season. Next, we have the Tova Twist Vodder. And actually, this was a part of my gift knit roundup, but the footage got clipped out somehow. So I am gonna present it to you guys again because I've seen this pattern for years, much like the headbands that I was talking about by this designer. Her mittens I've seen on Instagram for a very long time. So let me give you some information. The pattern is by Nina Ruth. It was originally published in September 2020. It's a bulky weight pattern. The gauge is 16 stitches and 4 inches, and the needle size is US 10 or 6 millimeter, and there are 3 sizes available in the pattern. So this pattern is actually a felted pattern, which is really neat and fun. The mittens are worked top down, stitches for the thumb are placed on hold while you continue to work the rest of the mitten. And then that twist is actually a tube that's knit separately and then attached later on. So I know I mentioned previously that I do like felted material. I think it's really neat, and I've never done anything with felting. I'm sure I will one day, maybe with this project, but I do think that they would make a wonderful gift knit either for yourself or for someone you know. And I just think they're so cute. I mean, they're very bold, but it's a simple construction that makes an impact. I do think a gauge swatch would be particularly important here. You may even want to do a sample swatch to felt. Felting isn't really an exact science. I know people can guide you on how best to achieve a certain result, but ultimately it kind of depends on the fiber you're using and the settings you have in your dryer. So this might be a little bit of an experiment, but I think well worth it. All right, and lastly, we have a sock pattern. This is Laid Edges. It's by Kelly McPherson. It was published in May of 2020. It's a DK weight pattern. The gauge is 28 stitches and 38 rows. The suggested needle size is US 2.5 or 3 millimeter. and it fits foot circumference 8, 8.5, and 9 inches. So this pattern is actually available free on Ravelry right now, which is really wonderful. And this again was part of my gift knit roundup, but didn't make it into the cut. There were a lot of patterns in there and the video became huge, so some things had to get the chop, but I'm glad to give it to you here. I thought it was so cute. It's a top down, cuff down pattern, and I do like that little cable that runs along the side. I think it makes it a little special and gives you some interest, but it's not like doing a fully laced sock or color work, and I think it would be something that you could whip up pretty quickly and either, you know, gift yourself or give as a gift this holiday season. I'm looking at the project page for this pattern, and there are, I think, over 900 projects, so clearly a well-loved pattern. And also a lot of people seem to be showcasing hand-dyed yarn for this pattern. I do think it would be nice because it's mostly a stockinette stitch pattern with just a small accent of a cable. So if you guys have like a special skein of hand-dyed yarn that you're not really sure what to do with, I think this project could be a really nice place to use it. All right, guys, and that's all I have for you today. Please let me know which pattern was your favorite. Are you going to cast any of these on? I'm really curious to know what your thoughts are. And let me know if this is something you'd like to see more of. If you guys like pattern roundups, I'm happy to make them for you. I definitely collect patterns and bundles on my own, so I would be happy to share them with you if you all are interested. And once again, thank you so much for being here, subscribing to the channel, liking and commenting, and hyping on mobile. There is a hype button below the video. It really does help my channel grow, and it helps us to grow this really wonderful community. So thanks again. I hope you guys are all doing really well and enjoying the holiday season. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.